What's up, everybody? Well, I figured I'd show you this since I got to pump up my raft anyway to get on the road. I don't want to drive with it inflated as much as it is. As you can see, it's pretty soft, so I don't really want it bouncing around. So when it comes to pumps and stuff like that, the pumps you get usually double for a lot of paddle boards, a lot of inflatables and stuff like that. And then one of the most important factors you want to know when you have a raft is you want to keep it in a dry bag on the boat with you at all times. You never know when you need to pump up your raft. When you go to store these things, dry bags are pretty simple. They're a folding system with some clips. So you kind of pinch your tops together like this, give it a good squeeze, and then roll this over a couple of times, just like that. And then you're gonna bring these ends up and you go ahead and you clip them. And that'll keep all the water out of your dry bag so that you don't have to worry about your pump getting wet. Another key item you wanna have in your bag, not in this one, but in a separate bag, is all of your patch stuff and all of your emergency stuff. Now I have that one on the inside of the raft and I'll show you that one in a bit. But in the meantime, I'm gonna kind of show you what the pump looks like and talk about a little bit what you're gonna expect when you're pumping up a raft. Now, if you're doing any type of paddleboard or anything, you're gonna rely on pressure, okay? A lot of these do have a PSI gauge on them, so you can get the pressures of your paddleboards and a lot of your inflatable canoes and stuff like that just right. As for rafts, they don't really rely on the PSI gauge. You actually have to count the amount of times you pump it. Now, these pumps do have a two-way valve system. So with this valve closed, it will pump air as you pull it up, and it'll pump air as you push it down. Now, this one is in fact an NRS. Most of the raft companies and stuff like that, they usually get NRS pumps. NRS is one of the biggest raft manufacturers of all the raft components and stuff like that. So naturally, it's an NRS pump. Now, if you take this valve and you twist it and pull the valve body out, it's a one-way pump. So it'll suck in air and it'll only pump air on the downstroke, okay? So really pay attention to whether you have this plug in or out when you're pumping up your raft or anything else. That way, when you're counting, you don't get confused, okay? Now, as for the rest of this, I showed you how the valves worked in one of my other videos, but in case you didn't catch that, they are a push-in valve system, and if you push in and twist, they're gonna remain open, okay? Now that's for when you're deflating your raft. When you're pumping it up like I'm about to right now, you don't really worry about it. So I'm gonna go ahead and hook this up, give it a couple of pumps, and then I'm gonna kind of show you how you check what your air pressure is in your raft. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on that. Okay, as you can see, I did 10 pumps for the front tube and I did 10 pumps for the back tube. Now I have to go to the other side. I got to do another 10 pumps on each front and rear tubes, and then you can check the pressure. But what you're looking for is kind of a boop, boop kind of thing. So I'll bring you in a little close and kind of show you what I mean. So if you noticed, I was hitting the raft. You hear that? You see how it's not that easy to push it in now and it doesn't buckle that much? that's what you want to start with. Usually you start 10 pumps and then see where it's at. So I'm going to jump to the other side, so I'm going to see you guys in a second. All right, so I'm on the other side of my boat right now. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about pumping up this side, because I do have a very small pinhole leak that I tried to get patched, and when I took it to the company, they said they couldn't find it. I was able to find it and I circled it for them, but they said they couldn't find it when they double checked it, so they didn't put a patch over it. So you always got to pay attention to stuff like that. But in the meantime, before I start pumping up this side, I basically wanted to show you the emergency bag real quick. It's the same thing, it's in a dry bag. Now what you usually want to have in your emergency bag, at least, you know, for me anyway, you can do whatever you want, but I always have one of these Pelican style waterproof boxes on the inside of my dry bag, and that holds all my glues, all of my different stuff, everything I need for patching. And then I've got a patch canister right here that has all the different PVC rubber for patching. I also have another dry bag or two in here just in case you puncture a hole in one of these, because it does happen. And then on top of that, you want a backup paddle, okay? Now this is one of the extending emergency paddles. You basically just pull it out, twist, pull it open, and twist and lock. Now you always want to have this in your boat at all times along with your pump, okay? So I figured I'd show you that just so that you can see it. You can carry extra ropes in here if you want, extra NRS tie straps, but I usually just throw that stuff into a different dry bag and pack it into the raft as well. But you don't always have to have that stuff. It really just depends on what you're doing. If you're whitewater rafting, not a bad idea to have your straps with you. If you're doing an overnight camping trip, obviously you're gonna have your straps with you, because you're gonna need to tie down all your stuff onto your boat. But for what I do, this is what I got full time in my boat, and then I just add stuff into other dry bags as needed. Now as far as pumping up this other side, I know that this tube actually holds a little less pressure overnight than the rest of them. So this one's gonna be 15 pumps and the front one's gonna be 10 pumps. So I'm gonna go ahead and pump that up and kind of give you an idea of what you would expect, and kind of hit it again and show you what you're gonna sound, what the sound is, and what you're looking for when you go ahead and pump these things up. Okay, my front tube is good. I got the same pressure as I do on the other side, and my back one is almost good. So I'm going to give the back tube probably another 3, 4, maybe 5 pumps at the most. Perfect. Now these NRS pumps, they are switchable, so you can inflate and deflate. Okay, this is a threaded system. There's threads right here. One of the other things is they do come with different size grommets, so it really just depends on what size the air ports are on your boat, and literally they just slip right on just like that. They also have an interlocking system right there, so you can change out your fittings, whatever you need to put on it. Now there's one more tube I got to do, and that's the floor tube, and I'm going to show you something cool about that one. So the floor tube vent on these boats, and a lot of inflated floors, is the same as the rest of them, right in here, okay? Now the thing about floors that are inflatable floors is they actually have a bleeder vent. And that's right there. Now, I've got to change mine. They normally have a screen on them, but the screen on mine isn't there anymore. Mine was a guide boat, and when I bought it, it was used. So naturally, I had to replace some stuff. But when you pump up the floors, you pump them up, and if you pump them up too much, they will bleed air out of that vent, okay? So that you don't have to worry about overinflating it. But I figured I would show you that. I'm gonna go ahead and close my caps. Give it a hit. Good. Good. Now I'm gonna walk around to the other side. Okay, so if anything, let me close those. Get an accurate sound. Good. We're good. Okay, now when it comes to strapping these down, as you notice, I've got my spare oar right here. This is my backup. These NRS straps come with these ring clips right here, so you can go ahead and thread. And what I like to do, I'll bring you in really close, is I like to thread my strap over, through the ring clip, back through it, and then grab my oar. That way, when I go ahead and I loose my oar so that I could put it in, if I lose or break an oar while I'm out on the river, I don't lose the straps, okay? Now, another thing you always want to have when you have a whitewater boat is you always want to have the oar tethers. These go straight to the oar towers right here, and they go straight to the oars. That way, if your oar comes out, if you flip your boat or anything like that, you usually have your tethers, you don't lose your oars, okay? Another thing I personally like to do is I like to strap down my cooler. I strap it down so that it doesn't fly out or anything like that if I do flip my boat. Another important feature you want on your whitewater raft is your perimeter line, okay? This goes all the way around the boat, okay? And then when you come around to the back, the best way to do these is don't do your normal knot. You're gonna do a series of half hitches so that you can lock it down, okay? Now these are really important in case somebody falls out of the boat. You tell them, first rule, if you're gonna fall, you fall in the boat, not out of the boat. But if you do happen to fall out of the boat, the number one thing you wanna be grabbing for first is your perimeter line. If you don't get your perimeter line, they have what's called a throw bag. Now a throw bag is for emergency purposes if somebody ends up in the water way out. And essentially what it is it's a figure-8 knot tied to your frame. Inside of a bag, there's a bunch of rope, just like this one. And then on the bottom of the bag, there's foam so that it floats. You pull all the rope out of this bag and you throw this bag to whoever's in the water. They grab the bag and you can pull them back into the boat. So I'm gonna go ahead and finalize the rest of this stuff. If you got any questions, leave them in the comments down below. Share the video with a friend if you would. Hit that subscribe button if you want to hear about a bunch more cool stuff. And I will see you guys next time, all right? And don't forget your notification bell, all right? Later.